Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to another Shabbat study. This is your brother Ben Sedek, Ben Torah, and tonight we're going to look at two topics. One is titled Are the Scriptures Reliable? Number one. And number two, the Messiah. Had the Messiah already came? There are many debates all over the world from ancient times until now about who is the Messiah. How do we know who is the Messiah? Has he came yet? Is he coming again? Will there be one Messiah coming twice? Will it be two Messiahs coming once? Will it be two Messiahs coming at two separate times? And it goes on and on. So today we're going to do like a double whammy. We're going to look at who the Messiah is. Has he already came in history? And are the scriptures that we use to look at the prophecies, are they reliable? Well, let's look at the scriptures now from a scientific perspective. We know that the air around the earth turns into huge circles, clockwise in one hemisphere and counterclockwise in the other. Okay? Now listen to this. This is what the book of Job says. Sir Isaac Newton studied light and discovered that white light is made of 7 colors, okay, which can be parted from the white. This is also stated in the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 24, and then recombined to make white again. Scientists discovered this in 1650, Richard Gunther. Okay, he discovered this in 1650. The book of Job and springs of the seas. Okay. Richard Gunther, a scientist, said, modern deep sea diving cameras have discovered amazing hot water vents on the floor of the oceans. The springs of the sea, which are mentioned in the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 16, these thermal vents release huge amounts of mineral-rich, superheated water springs in the darkness. So scientists found this out. The book of Job speaks of this long time ago. Okay? The scriptures and fat intake. The scriptures even mention about fat intake, and we're going to look at what science also said. The American Heart Association says the major kinds of fats in the we eat are saturated, polyunsaturated, monosaturated, and trans fatty acids. Saturated fats, trans fats, dietary cholesterol, raise blood cholesterol. A high level of cholesterol in the blood is a major risk factor for coronary heart failure, which leads to heart attack. In reference to cancer, a study by the University of Pennsylvania Cancer Center stated, quote, the fourth most common cause of cancer among men may be related to saturated fat consumption, end of quote. Saturated fats come from animals. In the book of Wayikra, or Leviticus 7, chapter 7, verse 22 to 24, this is what the scripture says. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, or Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, you shall eat no manner of fat, of ox, or of sheep, or of goat. Hallelujah. So the Almighty commanded us in Leviticus chapter 7, verse 22 to 24, that we shall not eat no manner of fat. And scientists now found out that a lot of cancers caused by saturated fats. Okay, let's look at the scriptures now and the immune system. The scripture teaches us that a baby boy should be circumcised in Brit Bilah, meaning circumcision of the flesh, on the 8th day of his life. This is mentioned in Genesis 17, verse 12. Now, medical science has now discovered that this is the day of the coagulating factor in the blood called prothrombin. Is at its highest. It reaches its peak on the 8th day, then drops. This is also when the blood is at its peak in vitamin K, the clot needed so the child don't bleed to death. Medical science has also discovered that this is when the immune system is at its peak. Now look at that. The scripture mentioned in Genesis chapter 17 that the child should be circumcised on the 8th day. Scientists now confirm that on the 8th day, that's when the vitamin K is at its peak. so that the blood could clot so that the child doesn't bleed to death. Okay, not a confirmation of the scripture matching with science. Also, the scripture speaks of all men being traced to one original ancestor. Okay, and scientists have confirmed that. Let's look at it. Researchers suggest that virtually all modern men, 99% of them, all men are closely related genetically and share genes with one man ancestor, dubbed known as the Y chromosome, Adam. We are finding that people have very, very shallow genetic roots which go back to one ancestor. That indicates, okay? So it indicates scientists found out that, all men go back to one ancestor, just as the scripture says. So far, a lot of things that we have read in the scriptures, scientists have confirmed it long after. Okay. The Messiah, one of the most controversial topics in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, is, can Yahushua of Nazareth be Messiah if he was not the biological son of Yosef or Joseph, the husband of Miriam, Mary? Yahushua could not inherit the lineage of David or David through his mother. It is a well-established scientific fact that a son carries most of his father's blood, because the word genetic means genes. In Hebrew, that means blood. A child carries most of his father's blood. The scripture also supports this notion, as we see over and over in the scriptural writings. For example, Abraham begot Yitzhak, and Yitzhak begot Yaakov, who became Jacob, Israel. Now notice Israel had 12 sons and one daughter. Her name was Dinah. Okay, this is Genesis 30:21, Genesis 34, verse 1. She was not counted in the children of Israel in the genealogy. Okay, why? Because she's a woman and she doesn't carry the DNA. Joseph or Joseph, the husband of Miriam, was from the tribe of Yehuda. Okay, Matthew 1:3-16. Mary was from the tribe of Levi, or Luke. This is mentioned in Luke 1:5 and Luke 1:35-36. So how can Yahushua be from David? Okay, if his biological father Yahusef is from the tribe of Judah, but he was not his biological father. It was his I would call stepfather, and Miriam was his biological mother. Now, according to Hebrew history, and even science prove this, that a baby, they get most of their blood from the father. That's the DNA. The word genetic is DNA, blood. Now, how Abba Yahweh fulfill this is this. The Messiah will be a representative of the tribe of Yehuda, Hebrews 7:14. And the reason why that have to be like that, because through one man, sin entered the world, and through that one man, death entered the world, through that bloodline of Adam. So Messiah, the second Adam, he cannot come through the same bloodline as Adam. So that's why he had to be supernaturally born with no earthly father. Hallelujah. Praise his name. Now, according to, let's look at what Luke 3:23 said. It states that Yahushua, according to the law, he was reckoned by law. The word reckon means recognized by law as the son of Joseph. That law still exists today. For example, if a man adopts a child, legal and lawfully, the child has the same right to inheritance as a biological child. Isn't it so? Okay, because once it's recognized by law. The Apostle Shaul or Paul uses the term in Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 15, and Romans 9:4. He said, for the Gentiles, the non-Israelites by birth, with the term adopted sons into the family. Okay? Yahushua had to be born of a virgin, according to Genesis 3:15, the seed of the woman. Okay, women don't normally have seed, but this circumstances was different because there was no man involved. Okay? Genesis 3:14-16. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall thou go, and dust shall thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity, the word enmity means strife, war, between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. This was also seen in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4-5. It's about when the fullness of the time came, Yahweh sent forth his son, born on, okay, no man involved, born of a woman, born under the law, so that he might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. These two scripture verses illustrate that Yahushua had to be born of a virgin. Okay, that's the only way that scripture can be fulfilled, and he come into this world without the biological bloodline of a man. Okay, now there are certain prophecies that tell us that when the Messiah shall come, what will be his function, so that we don't miss it. Okay, we're going to look at some of them, and this will tell us from scripture if Yahushua is Messiah, which he is. One, in Micah 5, verse 2, it says clearly, "And O Bethlehem Ephrata are by no means the little one among the mighty cities of David, but from thou will he come forth unto me, who will be ruler of my people Israel, who is going forth and coming in, is from Leol Amim, meaning from days of eternity." Okay, that's Micah 5, verse 2. This was fulfilled in the Brit Kadashah, the New Testament book of Luke 47. He was born in Bethlehem, the house of bread. And that's why he was referred to as the bread of life. Okay, Lechem Chayi. Now, the time of his birth, according to the prophecy of Daniel, Daniel 9, 25 to 27, it speaks that the Messiah had to come at a certain time in history. Okay, how do we know? Because when we read Daniel 9, from 20, let's start at 24 to 27, we see Gabriel giving Daniel a time frame saying 70 weeks. When you do the mathematics, it come up to 483 years. So what Daniel was being told by Gabriel, that there's going to be a decree by a king. This king was King Xerxes in 457 BCE. He gave a decree. So the Gabriel tell Daniel, whenever that decree is passed, do the mathematics. Okay, 70 weeks meaning 70 times 7, 7, 490 years. Okay, minus 7, which is a week. When you go through the prophecy, you'll see. But the whole thing gonna be 483 years from 457 BCE. So when you do the maths, guess what? It came up exactly to 33 at the Common Era when Yahushua rode into Jerusalem. This is interesting. Why? Because the people at that time was expecting the Messiah to come. The time was ripe for the coming of the Messiah. The prophecy stated that he must come at that time. How do we know that also? In Daniel 9, 24 to 27, it states that Messiah will be cut off, and then the prince shall come and destroy the sanctuary. What sanctuary was that he was talking about? At that time, it was the second temple that was standing, that was built by Zerubbabel. So what the prophecy was saying, that second temple built by Zerubbabel, the Messiah must die before the temple is destroyed. And guess what? Secular history has told us that the Roman general Titus, he came to Jerusalem, and on the Tesha B'Av, or the 9th of Ab, he burned the temple to the ground. What happened? 90, 70 at the Common Era? That 37 years before that. No, let me say 37. Yeah, some 47 years before that, Messiah died. Okay? Messiah died. So, some 37 years before that, Messiah died. He died at 33, and the Romans came in 70 at the Common Era. Yeah, so 37 years after, they came and they burn it down to the ground. So according to the prophecy, Messiah must come before the temple was destroyed. And the bottom line, the temple was destroyed in the 1st century at the Common Era, or the 1st century AD. And that's when Messiah died in 1st century AD. So according to the prophecy, Daniel 9:24 to the end, the Messiah must come on the scene and die before the temple is destroyed. And that was the 1st century. So in a nutshell, the Messiah must come before the 1st century is completed. Okay? And Yahushua did that. So what this means is, all the people who are awaiting Messiah's first coming, it's impossible, because according to the prophecy, he had to come from the 1st century, which he did. Daniel 9, read it for yourself, 24 to 27, say he had to die before the Romans came and destroyed the sanctuary, which they did in 70 of the Common Era. That's history, okay? And secular history already confirmed that. So the Messiah had to come from the first century. So anybody who's looking for his first coming now, it's impossible, based upon scriptures and prophecies, okay? Also, Matthew 27:50, is birth as a sign of a supernatural being. Birth as a supernatural birth. This is Isaiah 7:14. We talk about behold, I give you a sign. Alma in Hebrew. Yes, we know people debate this and say, well, it's not the word Betula, which means virgin, but the word Alma. The word Alma also can mean virgin, but not necessarily virgin. The word Alma in Hebrew just means an undefiled young woman. So that can be a virgin also. And the reason why we know in this sense, Isaiah 7:14 is talking about something supernatural, because hear what the prophet said. Behold, I give you a sign, Alma. Now let's interpret it as some people saying, behold, I give you a sign. A young woman shall conceive and give birth to a son. That's not a sign. Young women give birth to son every day, to children every day. That wouldn't be a sign. So if it was just a young woman giving birth to a son, what sign is there? That's not a sign. But it will make sense if a young woman who is a virgin give birth to a son. That will be a sign. That will make people pick their head and say, how can this be? So that will be a sign. You understand? So the big long debate about Betula, which means virgin, and Alma, which means undefiled young woman. Even though the Hebrew say Alma, in this context, we know it's talking about a virgin, because a virgin is also an undefiled woman, young lady. Okay. The fulfillment of this is in Luke 1:26, Luke 1:27, 30, and 31. Okay. Also, the prophecy speaks about there will be a slaughter of the innocents. Okay, this is in Jeremiah 31:15. This was fulfilled in Matthew 2, chapter 2, verse 16 to 18. Remember what happened? When King Herod heard that he was by the Magi, when they didn't tell him about the Messiah, where he was when they found him, he got angry and he heard that the child, based upon when the Magi told him that he will be born, that he will be 2 years and under. At this, to eliminate the threat, King Herod ordered all babies, boys, 2 years and older, to be slaughtered. This was prophesied in Jeremiah 31:15, and it was fulfilled in Matthew 2:16 to 18. Also, his flight to Egypt. Okay, there's also a debate about this. We would say flight to Egypt. That's talking about ancient Israel, but this wasn't ancient Israel, because this prophecy was given after Israel went into Egypt, and it's found in Hosea 11, verse 1. And we know what happened when Herod was gonna try to slaughter the child, Yahushua. Gabriel was told his parents that they should flee down into Egypt, and they went down into Egypt. This was prophesied in Hosea 11:1, fulfilled in Matthew 2:14 to 15. Now, another prophecy is that the Messiah will come after a forerunner, meaning there'll be one special prophet that will be heralding his coming, announcing the coming of the Messiah. This is written in Malachi 3, verse 1. Behold, I send my messenger before me to prepare the way, and the master will. That was Yohanan Makville, John the Baptist. And this forerunner was fulfilled in Luke 7:25 to 27. Another prophecy is he will be declared the son of Yahweh. This is found in Psalms 2, verse 7. This was fulfilled in Matthew 3, verse 17, when Yahushua was declared the son of Yah. Okay. He also remember a dove fell upon landed upon his head, and a voice said, behold, this is my son, my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Okay. Also, another prophecy is that he will have a Galilean ministry, meaning he will be teaching and ministering in Galilee. How do we know this? This is in Yeshaya and Isaiah 9, verse 1 to 2. Now, this was fulfilled in Matthew 4:13 to 16. Okay? Yahushua fulfilled the Galilean ministry. Why? It is written, the land of Naphtali and Zebulun, by the way of the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles, the people living in darkness, behold, a great light has sprung up. Okay, that's Messiah. Another prophet, another prophecy is in Deuteronomy 18:15. He said he will be a prophet like unto Moshe. We know there was no other prophet that fulfilled this role but Yahushua. How do we know that? Because after Moshe died, some people were saying, well, this prophet that Moshe spoke about was Joshua. It could be Joshua. Because guess what happened? Well, in the Brit Kadasha, in the New Testament, when the people saw Yahushua, they asked the question, when they see John the Baptist, they asked him the question, are you the prophet? Are you the prophet? Why? That means the people at that time, they were still expecting the prophet that Moshe talked about, or Moses talked about in Deuteronomy 18. Okay? We're talking a 1500-year span. Yet the people were asking John, are you the prophet? What prophet? The prophet in Deuteronomy 18:15. So the prophet hadn't came yet. That's why the people were asking John if he was that prophet that Moshe talked about. And we know in Acts 3:22, we know that prophet is Yahushua. And also in Isaiah 61, verse 1 to 2, he will have a tremendous talent in healing the brokenhearted. It is said he had never studied psychology, yet Yahushua had healed more brokenhearted than all doctors combined. Okay? We see of him healing the brokenhearted is in Isaiah 61, verse 1 to 2. Okay, the Spirit of Yah is upon me, for he had anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to deliver the captives, and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, and to preach the acceptable year of Yah. So he healed the brokenhearted. This is also in Luke 4:18 to 19. Now, here where it gets deep now, he will be rejected. Messiah, the true Messiah, will be rejected by his own people. Isaiah 53, verse 3, we talk about he was rejected. Okay? This was fulfilled in Matthew 27:20 and John 1:11 when they rejected him. Also, another prophecy is this. He shall be a priest after the order of Melchizedek. Remember who Melchizedek is. As a matter of fact, remember the name Melchizedek. It's very important. The word Melchizedek is two Hebrew words combined together. Malki, which means my king, and Sedek means righteousness or justice. So he's the king of righteousness and he's the king of justice. Now this is interesting. This is found in Psalms 110, chapter 110, verse 4. What's interesting about this? This is one of the prophecies why the ancient sages and rabbis stated that the Messiah will be a priest. Why? Because Melchizedek was a priestly order, okay? And the Messiah wasn't supposed to be a priest. But here, he's saying that the Messiah will be a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. So because of that, the rabbis of old were confused. They were saying, wait a minute, Messiah who represent Yehuda, they also have Judah, but yet still we are Messiah, a priestly Messiah. So it can't be a Davidic Messiah and a priestly Messiah one and the same. But guess what? It is one and the same. Why? Because Yahushua fulfilled that. Why? Even though his mom was not from Yehuda, she was of Levi descent, okay? And not only she has Levi descent, Yahushua was a priest. Why? Because he was a mediator. The book of Hebrews tells us that he was a mediator between, that's what a priest does. They serve as mediator between the people and Yah. And that's what Yahushua did. He was a mediator, okay? And remember, this is not the first time this happened. If y'all remember King David, even though he's from the tribe of Judah, he went, when he was on his mission during his days, he went into he went to the tabernacle. And what did he do? He ate the shewbread that was only for the priest. And his sons performed functions like priest. Okay, a typical type of the Messiah, David, and Messiah the priest. Psalms 110, 1 to 4 states, Yahweh said to my master, sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies a footstool for your feet. Then he went further to say, and you shall be a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. Now let's break this out. David writing the Psalms, and he said, Yah said to my master. So this is not David Because David is referring to his David's master. So Yah speaks to David master. So who is David master that Yah is speaking of? None other than the priest, the Messiah. Okay? And this was fulfilled in Hebrews 5 to 6, when they talk about Messiah serve as a priest, the true ultimate high priest. Okay? Now, he should make a triumphant entry into Jerusalem. That's one of the prophecy. This is written, prophesied in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9. It said the Messiah will make a triumphant entry into Jerusalem. And remember, Yahushua came into Jerusalem, Mark 11:7 and Mark 9:11, riding on an ass, just as Zechariah prophesied. He shall be betrayed by a friend. Oh my, this is in Psalms 41:9. Luke 22:47. Remember the famous Judas, Yahuda from Keriat. He betrayed the master for 30 pieces. Okay. It's also prophesied that the Messiah will be sold for 30 pieces of silver. This was in Zechariah 11:12, fulfilled in Matthew 26:15. He was accused by false witnesses. This is in Psalms 35:11. This was fulfilled in Mark 14:57. He was silent as a lamb. This was prophesied in Isaiah 53:7. And in Mark 15:4, when Pilate kept questioning him, he kept silent, fulfilling it. And 18, he was spat upon and smitten. Okay, they beat him, they spat on him, they insulted him. This was in Isaiah 50, verse 6. Okay, this was fulfilled in Matthew 26, verse 67. He was supposed to be crucified with transgressors or sinners. Isaiah 53:12 tells us that he was crucified with the transgressors. Right? This was fulfilled in Mark 15:27. If you remember, when Yahushua was crucified, there are two thieves that was crucified with him. That was fulfilled in Mark 15:27. Look at this one. He will be hated without a cause. Hated without a cause. This is in Psalms 35:19, fulfilled in Yochanan, John 15:24. He will be scorned and mocked. Okay, remember they mocked him? They spat on him, they mock him, they put crowns of thorn on his head and say, Hail King, Hail King. Well, this is in Psalms 22, verse 7, fulfilled in Luke 23:35. They gave him vinegar and gall to drink, bitter gall. This was a prophecy in Psalm 69, verse 21. He fulfilled it in Matthew 27:34 when he cried out for thirst, and they gave him bitter gall to drink. In Psalms 109:4, he prayed for his enemies. Okay, this was fulfilled in Luke 23:34 when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That was a fulfillment too. The soldiers gambled for his coat. This was in Psalm 22:17. This was fulfilled in Matthew 27:35 when he said, and they parted his garments and cast lots upon it. In Psalms 34:20, he said, not one of his bones will be broken. This was fulfilled in John 19:32. Because when Yahushua died, they came, one of the custom of the Roman in those days, if a person hasn't been dead by a certain time, they'll break their leg so that they don't have anything to push up and to suspend their body weight upon, and they will, stay longer. So what they do, they break the leg. So when they break the leg, they'll die faster. So when they came to Yahushua to break his leg, they realized he was already dead. This is in John 19:34. Then he was buried with the rich. This was in Isaiah 53:9 when he said his grave was made with the rich in his death. This was fulfilled in Matthew 27:57-60. Why? Because he tells you that he was placed in the tomb of Yahusef of Arimathea, or Joseph of Arimathea, with a rich man. Now this is the big one. The psalmist said in Psalm 16:10 and Psalms 49:15 and Isaiah 53:10 that will be resurrected from the dead. Let me read it again. Psalm 16:10, Psalms 49:15, Isaiah 53:10. He will be resurrected from the dead. This was seen in Mark 16:67. And Psalm 68:18 not only said talk about the resurrection, it also taught that he shall ascend to his Father's right hand. This is Psalm 68:18. Fulfillment in Mark 16:19. 1 Corinthians 15:4 and 4:8. Right? So these are just some of the many prophecies that only Yahushua of Nazareth has fulfilled. Look, there are mathematicians who state that any one person to fulfill 4 or 5 of those prophecies will be like taking the whole state of Texas, digging it 2 feet deep, put coins in it 2 feet deep, wrap a certain coin, blindfold a man, and tell him to pick out that one that was wrapped and put into the 2 feet deep of coin in the whole entire Texas. Almost impossible. Anybody who could fulfill 4 of those prophecies. Yahushua is the only man that has lived that fulfilled all of those that is supposed to be fulfilled in his first coming. Now, there are many people who try to say foolishness like he didn't exist. Well, guess what? The only people who say that are people who are uneducated. And when we say uneducated, we're not talking education like school and certificate. And that's not the education we're talking about. We're talking to people about education who read and have common sense. Many historians spoke about Yahushua. Many pagan historians who have nothing to lie about, so to speak. Not only does the writers in the scripture talk about him, but people say, oh, they made that up because they're believers. But non-believers wrote about Yahushua. Okay, the Romans, for example, they're one of the greatest keeper of records. As a matter of fact, in America, our Congress of Library, our Library of Congress, that's a term that they got from ancient Rome and the Senate. These are Roman terms, okay? And the Romans, they document that Yahushua was a living man that was crucified by Pontius Pilate. This is in Roman history. Other historians speak of him like Pliny the Younger, Pliny the Elder, and many other historians, and Tacitus, and many of them, talk about him. They talk about Yahushua, that when he was crucified by Pontius Pilate, there was a darkness over the land from the Mediterranean all the way over to North Africa. And the scripture tells us that when Yahushua was crucified, there was darkness upon the land. So there are many historical facts that speaks of Yahushua's existence. Okay, it's like I said, the only people who doubt it are people who are uneducated. Some of them biased, some of them stupid. But anybody who is sensible and have a little common sense, they know that Yahushua was a real man. Now, the ones who knew that he existed, they don't all see Yahushua as the Messiah. That's a different story. But they know he did exist. They say he's a prophet. Muslims, a lot of Muslim scholars talk about Yahushua. It's documented in their history too. Okay? Many historians outside of the Bible document that Yahushua was a real man that lived and he walked a perfect life. Okay? He's a real man. Praise Abba Yahweh. So these are just some of the prophecies that, when people are questioning about the Messiah, he have to come by a certain time. And, he have to come from the first century, like we said before. Nobody can come right now saying Messiah, and this is their first coming, because they'd have to take out the whole entire Daniel 9:24-27 of the scripture and throw it away, which is impossible. And many other prophecies. Okay, so Yahushua lives. That's his first coming, and he's coming back again. And I could show from scripture where he's coming back again. In Isaiah 61, where it says, the Spirit of Yah is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to give recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, and to preach the acceptable year of Yah. Now, when he came in the book of Luke 4, he read that part about himself, and then he closed it and he gave it back to the attendants. Why? Because that was his first coming. But if you look at Isaiah 61, verse part ending at 1 going into 2, right after that verse, it says, and to enact vengeance upon the wicked. That's in his second coming, because the first time he didn't come to enact vengeance upon the wicked, he came to heal the brokenhearted. In other words, to get them ready. The second time when he come, he will come back as with vengeance. So that's why in the book of Luke, when he was called to read that half Torah to the He read it and he stopped right at that part where it said, and to preach the acceptable year of Yah. But if you look right after that, the next part of it says, and to bring forth vengeance. The reason why I didn't do the second part is because the first part was all he came to do the first time. The second time when he returned, he will come back on the earth, not as a lamb to the slaughter, but as a conquering lion to destroy all the wicked. Praise Abba Yahweh. All right, so we're not going to close off tonight. Father willing, next time we come back and do another topic. So enjoy your Shabbat. Praise Abba Yahweh, and Messiah is the Prince of Peace, King of Kings, Master of Master, the great Son of the great I am. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Listen to the. Nice. Yes, nice.